carrying a man and another honey blonde. I could see immediately how Janice Browning had Smith's company off its feet.
How do you do, Mr. Dollar? I'm so glad you're here. Oh, may I present Mr. Masters?
All right, Mr. Masters. I know you have things to talk over. I'll pick you up at 7.
All right, George.
Bye, Dollar. Feel a lot better, too, now that you're here. I'll do what I can. See you at 7, Jan.
I'll be ready. Oh, please sit down, Mr. Dollar. Betty.
Yes, Miss Brown.
I don't think we'll need anything, and I'd like to see Mr. Dollar alone, if you don't mind.
Oh, by all means, Miss Browning. Could I have your permission to visit the beach?
Of course, stay as long as you like. You know where the beach things are.
Oh, I wouldn't think of encroaching. I'll just go the way I am.
She's the strangest girl.
Where'd you find her?
She was a waitress in New York. I asked her if she wanted to come down for the rest of the summer. I thought she'd be company. But she's become so formal, or tries to be. Oh, would you like a drink or something?
No, thanks.
I suppose you think I'm an awful coward to scream for help the way I did.
Well, I haven't heard all the particulars.
I really didn't know what else to do. I thought of running away, but, well, I had friends here. There's the simple fact that I don't have any money.
How serious do you think this threat to kill you is?
I'm afraid it's quite serious. But I don't know what will happen, and I wanted somebody to be with me.
When did you see him last?
6 months ago. I thought about it for a long time, about our breaking our engagement and which would be the best way to do it. And I decided to face him while he was still in prison and simply tell him I couldn't go on.
Well, that wasn't the easiest way to hand it to him.
I know, but it was the fairest, I thought. He didn't create a scene or anything, but I'll never forget his expression. He just looked at me and said, "Have your fun. You've only got 6 months, because when I get out of here, I'm going to kill you." Well, now the 6 months are up. He's been out.
He knows you're here?
Yes, he'll come here.
Your friend Master said he was going to call for you at 7. Where were you going?
Just to dinner and maybe a club afterward.
I think you'd better cancel it.
Why? I'll go crazy if I have to sit in this house and just wait.
I don't want you to come back here after dark, for one reason. If you can't go a long distance and stay, I don't want you to leave at all. The village is too small. If he knows it, he'll find you.
I'll be with George.
Look, you managed to put the responsibility of this thing into the lap of your insurance company, and they handed it to me. Now, I want you to stay here where I can keep my eye on you.
All right, Mr. Dollar. I'll do anything you want me to.
Good. Oh, you might mix that drink you offered. Scotch, if you have it, and plain water. The rest of the evening was spent with small talk and mounting tension. The state penitentiary was no more than 100 miles from Virginia Beach, and since it's the habit of prisons to turn out their guests at dawn, Mark Robeson had plenty of time to make the trip. In spite of a sultry night, I closed and locked all the doors and windows, and by 11, the cottage was dark, with everyone retired. The living room was the most strategic spot in the house, so I stretched myself across a couch that was too short for me and listened to the silence. It must have been sometime after midnight when I heard a door crack behind me. Who's that?
It's I, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, you shouldn't be roaming around the house, Betty. I darn near laid a chair across your head.
Oh, it's too hot to sleep, and besides, I have a few things on my mind if you're interested.
Sure, sit down.
Thanks. Did I not understand you to say that this Carm is her fiancé?
That's right.
Well, she certainly lives in circles, if you ask me. I happen to uncover some information that will knock you for a loop.
What?
Well, basically, I've never been a snoop, but I didn't go to the beach.
Oh?
No, after you advised me of the situation around here, I felt I had a right. I went into her room, which is no more than an oversized closet with bath. And it's a good thing I did, because in a drawer, I found a picture of Miss Browning posing as a bride.
A bride?
Yeah.
Are you sure of that?
As sure as I'm sitting here. And the guy standing with her was a bridegroom if I ever saw one. Were they fancy? What do you think of that?
I don't know. It doesn't necessarily mean anything.
But from what I've overheard, this fiancé of hers has been in prison for 5 years.
Yeah, that's the story.
And how come her wedding picture was taken in 1947?
Was it?
And that's what's stamped on the back of it. Now, is that screwy or isn't it?
It definitely is.
And there are some other things that don't ring truly. For example, this mug she is currently tied to. I heard her when she called him tonight, and it sounded more like...
You blasted your room. Get down on the floor. Stay there. Hey, hold it. Hold it, Rose. He hadn't moved away from the window he fired. When I got to him, he was still pointing the now empty gun at me, pulling the trigger and looking down at it stupidly.
Get away. I won't go back. I don't have to stay in the hospital now. I'm all better now.
Give me the gun, Robeson. It's empty.
No. It's mine. You're one of her men. She always had men.
No, I'm not one of the men. Let's go in the house and calm down.
You talk like a doctor. Yeah, you're a doctor. You can't take me back. Get away from me. You told me to make myself believe that she was dead and I'd sleep better.
Come on, Robeson.
Get away. I won't go back. Let go.
Don't cause any more trouble, Robeson.
Come on. I won't go back. Let go, Robeson. No. Now I don't have to go back. Let go.
I've heard stories of the unbelievable physical strength of those whose mental strength is gone. I got his hands away from my throat by sinking my knee into his stomach. There was nothing I could do to hold him. He lumbered off into the darkness and disappeared. I didn't need a medical opinion to know that I wasn't protecting Janice Browning from a released convict. I was protecting her from a homicidal maniac.
There's the opportunity of a lifetime waiting today for any healthy young American man. An opportunity to begin a profitable and stable career for himself and at the same time to offer assistance to his nation, to the United Nations in their present conflict against armed aggression. The United States Armed Forces need volunteers today in every branch of the service. You have the chance to choose not only the branch, but the type of work which you feel will be of the most benefit to you in the years ahead. May we suggest that you go to your nearest recruiting office now to see if you are eligible to volunteer and inquire about the many opportunities open to you. And now, back to our star, Edmund O'Brien, and the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Are you all right, Mr. Dollar?
Yeah. Turn on some lamps in here, but stay away from the windows. I doubt if he'll come back, but he might.
That brute is still on the loose?
Yeah. Where's Miss Browning?
She's still in her room. I heard her bawling, but she stopped now.
Miss Browning?
Yes?
I'm coming in.
Where is he?
I couldn't hold him. Where's the light switch?
No, don't turn on the lights.
He thinks he killed you. He won't come back tonight.
Well, why don't you go ahead and say it?
Oh, I'd better not. As a matter of fact, I don't mind your lies or the way I was dragged into this. But what really stinks is you're hiring that girl because she looks enough like you to be mistaken for you at a distance. You give her your clothes to wear and you put her into your room. But she'd be dead now if she hadn't come into the living room.
I'm not trying to pass the blame, but it was George Masters' idea. He remembered her and thought bringing her here might be a way to save my life.
Robeson's your husband, isn't he?
Yes, he's my husband.
What's he doing running around loose?
He escaped from a hospital in Pennsylvania. He's been there a year. He tried to kill me before he was committed.
Why didn't you tell the insurance company the truth?
I did.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. It was Mr. Brewster's idea to tell you that he was coming out of prison. He thought you wouldn't take the job if you knew the truth.
Well, he was right, and I'm leaving the job right now.
Oh, you have every right to.
You can get yourself some protection around here.
I couldn't when I tried. I went to every private detective in Norfolk and Portsmouth.
None of them would take the case?
No.
Well, what about the police? What is this, county out here?
Yes, it is. I notified the sheriff's office, and they promised me extra patrols, but that's the best they could do.
How'd you happen to turn to the insurance company?
Well, George Masters is my lawyer. He suggested it. Mr. Dollar, I'm not begging for help or excusing anything I've done, but I've been half crazy with fear and that awful lost feeling when nobody would help me. I had to do something.
What about your lack of money? Was that a lie, too?
Oh, every penny I had has been spent on treatment for Mark. I borrowed from George on my insurance. I sold our house in Connecticut, and that money's gone. This property is all I have left, and I borrowed against it.
I guess you've had your troubles. Who can I talk to about your husband?
You mean a doctor?
Yes, I thought maybe a doctor might know what Robeson would do next.
Well, Dr. Becker came on to Norfolk after he warned me that Mark had escaped. His phone number is in the little book on the stand.
Well, I hate to bother him, but I'd like to have him come out tonight.
Mr. Dollar,
Yeah?
you're staying?
Well, not any longer than I have to. Say, you better get up and have a drink. You're shaking like a leaf. I changed my mind about dropping the case, Mr. Brewster, not only because she was a beautiful woman in a tough situation, but also for another reason. I awoke Dr. Becker at his hotel in Norfolk, and after I outlined the night's events to him, he agreed to come out.
It must have been a decidedly unpleasant experience, Mr. Dollar. On the other hand, you are fortunate to be alive.
Yes, I guess I am.
Robeson is only dangerous when his basic jealousy is aggravated. You say you arrived with luggage?
That's right.
Perhaps he was watching then and misunderstood your visit.
Oh, I get it. Well, what do we do now, Doctor? He probably thinks he killed her. Can we expect him to come back?
Well, that is hard to say. He'll suffer a deep sense of remorse. Then he may feel that what took place was only a figment, a dream. The remorse would cause introspection and keep him away. The fantasy thought might bring him back to investigate.
When?
Oh, who knows? Tonight even, or tomorrow.
Would he try to kill her again?
Oh, yes. An extremely strong fixation. Do you want him to come back?
Well, I want to see the end of this. That's the best way I can think of. I'll keep his wife here tomorrow outside so he can see her if he does come.
She's the one who really has suffered, the poor girl. I wish there were a way to ensure her safety.
We could alert the police.
Well, with the police on the scene, then he would not return.
Here she comes.
Oh, hello, Dr. Becker.
Oh, good evening, my dear. Or morning, rather. Oh, I'm so sorry about the trouble.
I'm afraid it can't be helped.
I was so sure at one point that he was responding to treatment.
I know you've done your best, Doctor. Mr. Dollar, I may be imagining things, but I'm awfully worried.
It'll be all right.
No, I mean, I tried to phone George, and there's no answer. It's after 2, and he should be at home. Mark knew that George and I have always been friendly.
Would there be any danger to this man, Doctor?
Oh, I hardly think so. All of your husband's aggressive urge was directed toward you, Janice.
Well, could we go and see if everything is all right? I can't help it. I'm worried.
Where does he live?
In the village. It's not far from here. Could we borrow your car, Doctor?
Oh, by all means, my dear. Here are the keys.
You'll come with me, Mr. Dollar?
Oh, I'm not letting you go alone. We'll be back as soon as we can, Doctor.
Oh, this is his house, the white one. Oh, there's his car in the driveway.
There's a light on. Maybe his phone is out of order.
I told him I'd let him know if anything happened. George? George, it's Jan. Doesn't answer. I want to go in.
Let's see. It's unlocked.
George?
The light's coming from a room back there.
Oh, that's his study, where the phone is.
Well, we can check that then. George Masters was lying face up in the middle of a room that had been pretty well torn up by the struggle. The first thing I noticed were the bruises left on his throat by the hands that had choked him to death. I noticed another thing when I went to the desk to phone the police. There was a gun lying on it, and I would have sworn that it was the same police special Mark Robeson was carrying earlier in the evenings. It took Dr. Becker to quiet Janice Browning after I literally dragged her out of the Masters house and got her home.
And I hope she can rest now, but she's dangerously near to mental collapse herself.
Yes, I can understand that.
Is there anything further that I can do, Mr. Dollar?
Nothing now, Betty. Get some sleep if you can.
Sleep? Who could sleep?
Well, and spend your time packing. You're going back to New York in the morning.
I certainly am. For me, you can give Virginia Beach back to the Indians.
Is Janice in love with Masters, Doctor?
I think so. A great feeling of loyalty, at least. He had helped her so much with monetary loans and so on.
But you said he wouldn't remember the association between Masters and his wife.
Yes, I was convinced that he wouldn't.
There was a police special in Masters' study. I'm positive it was the same one that Robeson used here.
Oh?
I tried to take it away from him. I couldn't. And why should he leave it at Masters?
Well, I don't know.
Say, did they know one another before Robeson broke down?
Oh, yes, they were quite friendly. Good heavens, Dollar. What are you driving at?
Janice borrowed from Masters on a life insurance policy. That usually means making the lender a beneficiary. I don't know how much the policy was for, but I'm going to find out.
Well, I dislike having to agree with you, Dollar, but I do. In Robeson's warped mind, Janice was the archenemy. It would have been quite easy for Masters to inflame Robeson to the point where he would kill his own wife.
Oh, Mr. Dollar! Mr. Dollar!
What is it, Betty?
He's back. That man, he came back.
All right, now take it easy. You're all right.
But I saw him. He was looking in the window. The one he shot through.
Doctor, take care of her, will you? I better get back to Janice's room. There was no more trouble that night, nor was there any rest. We knew that since Robeson had come back, he realized his mistake. And we knew that he would try to come back again. We agreed that instead of calling for police protection, we would let him return and try to handle him when he did. An hour after daybreak, we felt it safe to relax. And it wasn't until noon that I drove Betty Light into Virginia Beach and put her aboard a bus bound for the comparative safety of New York. Before I started the return trip, I made a swing past George Masters' house, convinced the deputy sheriff in charge that I had a right to poke my nose in, and got myself back into the study.
I suppose it'd be all right if you go in. They took up all the evidence they wanted, I guess.
What was that, Sheriff?
All the things that pick up prints. Here you are. What do you want to look at?
Some of his papers. I won't interfere with your work, but I'd like to know how he stood financially.
You think that has something to do with it?
Oh, I don't know. It might.
They dusted all them drawers, so I guess it's all right if you pull them. He's a lawyer, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Said the field's wide open. A lot of people didn't like him.
Oh? I didn't know that.
What's that for?
The ledger. Kept his accounts in it.
What'd you find? Janice Brown. Who's that?
Somebody he loaned some money to?
Ooh, I'll say he did. $20,000.
Ah, that's all I wanted, Sheriff. Thanks, and I hope I haven't caused you too much trouble. What I found was another link in a chain of circumstantial evidence that would never be used since George Masters was dead. He had loaned Janice Browning the $1,000 she had spent on treatments for her husband, and it was obvious that there was no chance of her ever being able to pay him back. The last notation revealed the fact that a $5,000 loan had been made on her insurance policy in April. A long-distance call to the company told me that the policy was for $50,000 and that George Masters had become the sole beneficiary the same month, April.
And I see no purpose in telling her, Mr. Dollar, or questioning her.
I don't either, Doctor. I hadn't planned to, but the sheriff's office won't think twice about throwing it at her if it gets out.
If you will allow me the privilege of perjuring a certain amount of expert testimony, I think I could manage to gloss over it.
Well, the deputy saw it, but I don't think it sank in.
I hope not. Of course, we're assuming that we'll be successful in subduing Robeson.
You said he would come back.
I'm sure he will. It is you I'm worried about.
Well, I'll have to be ready for him this time. He's too strong to take without a weapon. I hate to do it.
Oh, I don't think you need to be. The poor fellow will have no idea what is happening except that he's come back.
Okay. Is she awake?
Yes, I think so.
Well, it's 3 o'clock. She should be outside in case he's watching.
Yes, I'll go and explain our tactics to her. Good luck, Mr. Dollar. I hope all goes well.
It seemed almost cruel baiting the trap, but it had to be done. We paraded Janice Browning through the garden in her most fetching get-up until dark, and then sent her in to sit in front of an open window. I don't know how she held on to her own sanity. I do know that I had a little trouble myself. I sneaked into a position outside the house from which there was a good view of all the approaches but the one from the north. He arrived at about 10:30. He was moving toward the living room window, and I started toward him. Hi, Mark.
What? I can't see it.
I'm George Masters. You remember?
George Masters?
That's right.
It's your fault. She wasn't in that room.
Did I tell you she was in that room?
You aren't George Masters. He made a mistake. I told him, and he said I made a mistake. You're the doctor. Get away from me.
You'll do it right this time, Mark. Come here.
George Masters is dead. You aren't George Masters.
No, I'm not, Mark. But you have to come with me.
No, I don't. I won't go back to the hospital. I won't let you.
Mark!
Robeson, don't! Get away! No, I don't!
I'm sorry, Robeson. I don't know what Becker is going to say to the police, but I do know what he learned from his patient after he was returned to the hospital and quieted down. Enclosed, you will find the doctor's confidential statement.
He did go to Masters, hoping to ally him as a friend. Taking advantage of his escape, Masters owned him, in the hope of realizing a profit from Janice's insurance policy. But Robeson, in his agitation, fired into the wrong room. And because he placed the blame for his mistake on Masters instead of himself, he became violent, and as a result, Masters was killed.
Expense account item 3, same as item 2, transportation back to Hartford. Expense account item 4, and this is to you personally, Mr. Brewster. Payment for deceit in acing me into this matter, $500. Expense account total, $855.75. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Edmund O'Brien can currently be seen starring in the Columbia Pictures production 711 Ocean Drive. Featured in tonight's cast were Bob Sweeney, Virginia Gregg, Gene Bates, Hy Averback, and Howard McNear. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, was transcribed in Hollywood by Jaime Del Valle. CBS is the star's address, and when you pay a daytime call, you'll find one of CBS' greatest stars, Arthur Godfrey, on hand to welcome you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, for an hour and a quarter each day. Arthur and all the little Godfreys make life more musical and fun for you. Hear Arthur Godfrey's daytime program every Monday through Friday on most of these same CBS stations.
To hear each and every star, speaker dials where they are, for this is CBS, the Star's Address. Yes, CBS, the Star's Address.
Yes, this is CBS, where Philip Marlowe takes the case every Friday night on the Columbia Broadcasting System.
You're listening to Chin Radio AM 1540, the voice of multicultural Toronto, bringing you the latest updates on COVID-19. Stay informed, stay safe, and stay tuned to Chin Radio AM 1540.
Now, as gunshots echo across the wind-swept, snow-covered reaches of the wild Northwest, Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice, the breakfast cereal shot from guns, present the challenge of the Yukon. It's Yukon King, swiftest and strongest lead dog of the Northwest, blazing the trail for Sergeant Preston of the Northwest Mounted Police in his relentless pursuit of lawbreakers. Run, King! Run, you huskies! Gold discovered in the Yukon, a stampede to the Klondike and a wild race for riches. Back to the days of the gold rush, with Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice, bringing you the adventures of Sergeant Preston and his wonder dog Yukon King as they meet the challenge of the Yukon. It's not too late. Start now, today. Yes, hurry. Get started on your new Quaker miniature model farm. Listen. That's Topsy, your model Shetland pony. And that's Queenie the Collie, your model farm watchdog. These and 44 other colorful detailed scale models of farm animals, farm buildings, and equipment all come with a complete new Quaker model farm.
There are 46 different models in all, and they're yours at no extra cost.
And listen to this. There's no waiting, nothing to send in. No money, box tops, or coupons.
Listen to how you can start your own Quaker model farm right here and now tonight. You'll hear full details in just a few minutes.
There was gold to be had by panning Scotch River, but the rugged mountain country would not give up her treasure to a weakling. The approaching winter made the wind-swept region bitterly cold. One by one, the men packed up their gear and set out on a long trip to Dawson. Tom Farnham and his partner Lefty Morris had been in the Scotch River country, but they lacked both industry and courage. Empty-handed, they were on the back trail. Tom was in an ugly mood.
All the fool ideas. Going up the Scotch River. I don't know why I listened to you, Lefty.
You listened to me because you wanted to strike it rich. I thought you knew it wouldn't be child's play.
There could be $1 million at Scotch River, and I wouldn't stay there another day.
All right, we've left.
Yeah, we're shut of it. And where are we? Gotta walk for days to get back to Dawson.
Oh, you feel better after you've had something to eat, Tom.
Where we get it. You know as well as I do, we're out of grub.
There's a way cabin straight ahead, the bend of the trail. No, I won't take it from there.
Wilderness trails were marked at intervals by small windowless cabins along the way. They were established for the benefit of travelers and stocked with food and firewood. Any man was free to make use of the way cabins and take whatever he might need. But there was a strict code in effect. Tom and Lefty made themselves at home and soon had food on the fire that crackled in the fireplace.
By the time the coffee's boiled, I'll have this steak done to a turn. Tom, I reckon you'll feel better when you sink your teeth into a juicy slab of caribou, huh?
You suppose we could throw some more wood on the fire?
Sure thing. That's what the wood's piled up for. Burn as much as we like, as long as it's replaced before we leave.
Replaced? You mean we've got to cut wood before we hit the trail?
Sure.
Not me, Lefty. I'm leaving here at daybreak, and I'm not cutting any wood before I start.
All right, Tom. I'll cut some wood.
Who stocked this place with victuals?
Everyone. Sort of unwritten law. Any pilgrim is welcome to whatever he needs in a cabin like this, but he's expected to put back as much or more than he takes.
You mean we're supposed to come back here?
Oh, not here especially. Maybe before we hit the next cabin, we'll be able to shoot some game. That being the case, we'll take it with us. Eat what we want, leave the rest for the next guy. If you got any extra coffee or something like that, we could leave that too.
You know, Lefty, I'm beginning to get an idea.
What do you mean?
We left Scotch River on mighty short rations.
We'd had a tough time if we hadn't stopped here. Never make Dawson unless we manage to shoot some food.
Most everyone who leaves Scotch River has to stop at this place. Ain't that right?
Sure.
Well, supposing a man got to this cabin and didn't find any food, then what would he do?
He'd tighten his belt, I reckon. He'd be plenty hungry before he got to the next cabin.
Suppose there wasn't no food in that one.
Mighty little chance of that, Tom.
But just suppose.
Well, if he couldn't shoot something to eat, he'd be in a tough spot.
I figured he'd be just about ready to pay any price for food.
He sure would.
He could have his pockets bulging with gold. But it wouldn't do him a bit of good if he starved on the trail of Dawson. He'd be willing to give at least half of that gold for food enough to see him through.
Hey, Tom, what are you getting at?
We went up the Scotch River to act on your idea, Lefty. Now it's my turn to have an idea.
Now listen, if your idea is what I think it
Let
is...
those sourdoughs freeze and starve to get gold from Scotch River. Lefty, we can have our share without lifting a hand.
Oh, no.
All we got to do is clean out this cabin, pack all the food there is and take it with us.
Oh, we couldn't carry it all.
We could pack it and drag it on a line. We'll do the same with all the grub that's in the next cabin.
Tom, we can't get away with it. It's a hanging crime in these parts. Same as horse stealing in the States. Look at all the horse thieves that have got their necks stretched.
There's also some horse thieves that got mighty rich, then went back east to live the life of millionaires.
Yeah. Well, Tom, do you think we can really get away with it?
We'll get away with it.
When those sourdoughs get into Dawson and tell about finding no grub in the way cabins. Tell about us taking half their gold.
We won't have to get away with it for very long. We'll make a quick cleanup, then head for the States. Now, come on. Get together all the grub in this place. We'll get it packed to take along with us when we start out at daybreak.
Sergeant Preston, this great dog king, had a territory that covered a vast expanse of Yukon country. They came into Dawson and headed directly to the home of their friend, Sam Calkins, and his wife, Kate.
One king.
Sakes alive, Sergeant, you're a sight for sore eyes.
If you only knew how glad we are to see you, Sergeant Preston. Yes, you too, King.
It's good to see both of you.
You're here ahead of time, aren't you?
Yes, I've changed my route.
Well, Sergeant Preston, I'm awfully glad you're here.
You in trouble, Sam?
Yes, I've been robbed.
Robbed?
Yes, Sam was robbed of almost all the gold he got in Scotch River.
That's so.
That's right. I froze and starved there. I never worked so hard in all my life. But I got gold. Yes, sir, I got gold there. And if it hadn't been for the orneriest thieving skunks that ever lived, me and Kate would have had enough to take us back to the States.
What happened?
Well, Sergeant, do you know the country between here and Scotch River?
I've been over it once.
There are 3 way cabins up along the trail. There's no part of the Yukon where they're needed more.
Yes, I remember the cabins.
All the way back, I stopped at the first one. There wasn't a smidge of food or firewood there. I had to shove on the next day on an empty stomach. I kept going, though. By nightfall, reached the next place, figuring for sure I'd find grub.
But he didn't.
You mean to say there was nothing to eat in either of the first 2 cabins?
That's right, Sergeant. When I started out from the second one, well, I was just about licked. I was so weak from hunger I could hardly travel.
What about the third cabin?
The third. I couldn't believe it, Sergeant. But that one was just like the others.
It was?
Yes, I knew it meant the end for me. After I'd looked around and realized there was no grub, well, I fell down on the floor and cried like a baby. I was that weak.
I'll see that those cabins are stocked right away.
Wait a minute, Sergeant Preston. Wait till Sam finishes.
I don't know how long I lay there on the floor. May have lost consciousness for a bit. But pretty soon I felt someone shaking me. I looked up and a man in a bearskin parka was offering me a bowl of steaming hot broth.
Who was he?
Let me tell you the rest. Go ahead. He gave me the broth. Then he explained that he had a place in the woods not far away. He offered to sell me grub enough for a square meal.
What?
Yeah, so I could get here to Dawson.
You mean he took cash for the food that saved your life?
Cash?
He took gold. He took most all the gold I brought back from Scotch River. That was his price for grub enough to give a starving man a meal.
A man like that must be.
When I got here, I found that Pete Doolittle, who left Scotch River a couple of weeks ahead of me, had run into the same situation. This man had sold him food and took most of the gold he'd slaved to get.
I see.
Jim Forsythe came into town just yesterday, Sergeant.
Oh, yeah. Jim Forsythe had been to Scotch River, too.
What about him?
Well, he had dogs and a sled, but he was short of food, the same as the rest of us. He didn't have much gold. Not enough to satisfy that buzzard.
What happened to Forsythe?
He had to swap everything that was on his sled for food. He had a lot of camping equipment, blasting powder that was left over, and things like that.
Sam, why haven't you men done something about this situation? Why haven't you gotten together and gone up to look for this man?
Well, there's been some talk of it, Sergeant, but we just haven't gotten around to it. Besides, the chances are he'd see us coming and light out.
That's true.
And we're so doggone glad to be back in Dawson. None of us has got the stomach to go out on the trail again.
Do you know the man who robbed you?
I remember seeing him. He and the partner spent a few days around Scotch River.
So he has a partner?
He had. I don't know whether he still has or not.
What's his name?
He was called Tom Farnham. His partner was Lefty something or other. I don't remember his last name.
Those two have a lot to account for. Sam, I'm going to bring them back to Dawson.
Maybe you better take some men with you, Sergeant Preston.
I think King and I can handle the situation. Leave my dog team here.
You'll have to be careful, mighty careful. There's a wide valley just this side of the third cabin. It's open country. You'll be seen long before you get to the place where Farnham is waiting.
Yes, I remember that valley.
Tom's right, Sergeant. They might shoot you when they see you coming.
I'll take my chances.
Tom and Lefty had built a very small cabin in the woods not far from the third way cabin. It was strategically placed so they could watch the trail from Scotch River and be ready for travelers, while at the same time they maintained a watch on the valley to the south. It was Lefty who first saw 2 dark, distant specks against the snow.
Hey, Tom, someone's coming.
I've been expecting it. How many are there, Lefty?
Well, I just see 2 figures. Wait till I get the binoculars focused on them. I'll tell you more about them.
Those binoculars coming right handy.
So do a lot of other things we got off the sled of that last pilgrim.
What do you see?
Really? Hey, Tom. Tom, this is worse than we figured.
What do you mean?
You said we'd be ready for any of the men who would come up from Dawson looking for us.
We are ready, and you know it.
Yeah, we're ready for townsmen. But, Tom, that's a Mountie coming this way.
Just one?
Just one, and a dog.
All right. We'll deal with a Mountie just as I said we'd deal with a townsman.
Oh, no.
Don't start that again.
But, Tom, when it comes to killing a Mountie...
Take it easy, Lefty. There'll be no one to prove it's murder. As a matter of fact, I don't think anyone will be able to prove that the Mountie's dead.
What do you mean by that, Tom?
Come on inside. I'll tell you. To prove a man is dead, there's got to be a body. Isn't that right?
Yeah, sure.
What do you think would happen to a man who has about 3 pounds of blasting powder set off beneath his feet?
Blasting powder?
There was blasting powder as well as a few other things on that sled we got.
You mean Jim Forsyth?
Yeah. Now, give me a hand. We'll fix a reception for the Monty. A hot reception.
We'll continue our story in just a minute. Fellas and girls, don't wait another day. Start your Quaker Model Farm right away. It's new, different, fun. It's terrific. You can't afford to miss this amazing offer made by Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice. The breakfast cereal shot from gun. Listen carefully. Here's how easy it is to get this swell new complete miniature model farm. You can get 46 detailed scale models in all. They're yours at no extra cost. And you build these exciting models of farm buildings yourself. It's easy, and you can stock your farm with model horses. And with model cows. And wait till you see models like the Big Red Barn. This amazing Big Red Barn actually has a sliding door. All buildings like farmhouse and garage have doors and windows that open and close. You get a cattle shed, too. A tractor, a pickup truck. You get everything, even a roadside stand. What's more, all this doesn't cost you a single extra penny. Here's all you do to get these models. Get special new packages of Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice. Every model, yes, every single model comes printed right on the new packages of Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice. There are 8 different packages in all, and you get as many as 6 different models on a single package. All models are easy to build, too. Packages are pre-cut and scored. No paste or glue is necessary. Don't delay another day. Start your model farm right away. There's no waiting, nothing to send in, no box tops, no coupons, and no money. These easily assembled models come on new packages of Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice. The swell-tasting breakfast cereals shot from gun. Ask for Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice. Your grocer now has these keen new models. They're yours for the asking when you ask for delicious Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice. Now to continue our story.
Tom Farnham worked rapidly after seeing Sergeant Preston and the great dog King in the distance. In the small cabin he and Lefty had built, he had a number of articles spread out on a crude homemade table. He was fitting them into a wooden box, while Lefty dug a hole in the center of the dirt floor.
That all's deep enough, Lefty. Just leave the dirt there in a pile.
The ground was sure frozen hard.
I've got this box just about rigged. Take a look at it.
Hey, it's pretty tricky to me.
I've got the blasting powder here in the bottom of the box. I'll fix this gun right here, like this. It's a lucky thing the gun has a hair trigger.
You got a string tied to the trigger.
That's right. There's one cartridge in the gun. Took the lead out of the cartridge. When the gun's fired, it'll set off the blasting powder. Now, the clock goes right here. Now, wind her up. It's 5 minutes past 3 now. That means that in 55 minutes, it'll strike the time.
You didn't wind it very much.
It's only got to run for 55 minutes. Just fasten the string from the trigger of the gun. There's a little hammer that strikes the time on the hour. When the hammer goes back, the gun goes off. And that's the end of the body.
Listen, Tom, I don't like being part of a deal like this. I never figured on getting into murder.
Let me do the figuring. You just do as I tell you. Cock the gun. And the bomb's all set. Close the box.
I wish you'd think this over a little bit. Maybe we can stall him on the off.
Stand aside so I can put this box into the hole you dug.
But hang it all, Tom.
Shut up. Just Fritz. Grab that spade and fill in the hole. Then we'll move the table over the place and get out of here.
But, Tom, how do you know the money will stay here till that powder blows up?
I'll leave a note on the door. And I guarantee it'll keep him here. Now fill in that hole.
All right, Pedro.
Sergeant Preston had left his sled and dogs in Dawson. He and King reached the first of the way cabins and found it barren of food. There were a number of footprints in the snow that took but a few moments to follow these to a smaller cabin, a newly built one back among the trees. The trained eye of the Mountie read the footprints in the snow before he saw the note that was fastened to the door.
Well, King, looks as if the men who live here have gone away. Started out in different directions. Let's see what's on this note. Lefty, if you get back ahead of me, be sure and wait, because I have something important to tell you. I've gone hunting. I'll be back no later than 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, huh? Well, King, might as well go inside and wait. Tom Farnham signed that note, and he's the man I want to talk to. His partner Lefty, too. Come in, King. Place seems to be newly built, eh, King? Those two cooks probably put it up in a hurry so they could wait here and watch for travelers on their way back from Scotch River. Well stocked with food. Very well stocked. All right, King. We'll wait here for them, boy.
Tom and Lefty had made divergent tracks from the cabin so the note on the door would appear authentic. But the two had gone only a short distance before meeting. They were within 1/8 of a mile of the cabin, waiting among the trees.
It's too bad we had to leave so much stuff in the cabin.
Yeah, we brought all we could carry. You should have made that last prospector we got leave his dogs and sled.
I didn't want to bother feeding the dogs.
Tom, are you sure we'll hear the explosion from here?
We'll hear it, all right.
Then what'll we do?
As soon as we're sure the Mounties off that trail for keeps, we'll go into Dawson. Get a sled and some dogs and strike out for another part of the country.
You said we'd go back to the States.
I figured we could stay here longer and collect for more of those prospectors from Scotch River before we had to pull stakes.
We did pretty well from those three.
Yeah, a few $1,000s worth of gold. I want 10 times that much. We'll get it, too.
But you think it's dangerous to go into Dawson for supplies? We might run into Forsyth, or one of those others we robbed.
We didn't rob anybody. We just sold food. We kept them from starving.
Yeah, that's the way you look at it.
We'll
but
keep a sharp watch.
Hey, Tom.
Huh?
What time is it now?
3:30.
Half an hour to wait. I hope nothing goes wrong.
Nothing will go wrong. You just wait and see.
Meanwhile, Sergeant Preston and his dog investigated every nook and corner of the cabin. Then the Mountie sat down on the box that served as a chair. But King was restless. The dog's keen instincts told him danger lurked close at hand. There was something intangible. He sniffed at boxes and at cupboards, then at a small spade that stood against the wall.
What's the matter with you, King? Just an ordinary spade.
King stood up, braced his front feet against the wall, and sniffed the handle of the spade. He touched it with his delicate nostrils, and it slid to the floor.
Take it easy, King. We haven't much longer to wait. I'll put that spade back where it was. What? Here's a peculiar thing, fella. There's fresh dirt on it. Been used quite recently.
When King saw his master examining the spade, he felt that he was on the right track. The spade had some relationship with the dog's uncanny feeling that both he and Sergeant Preston were in jeopardy. Still holding the spade, the Mountie examined the dirt floor of the cabin. King found a place beneath the table where the dirt had been disturbed and patted down. He started whimpering and digging.
King, I wonder if you found something. Let's have a look. Now stand back, boy. I'll move this table.
Tom and Lefty waited with growing impatience for the sound of the explosion. A half an hour passed, and then another 15 minutes. Tom looked at his watch for the 5th time, then closed the lid with a decisive snap.
Something's gone wrong.
Yeah, it's way past 4 o'clock.
Yeah, that flash should have gone off 15 or 20 minutes ago.
I think the Mountie's still at the cabin.
Maybe the clock stopped.
What are we going to do, Tom? We can't wait here much longer. It's getting colder every minute.
We've got to go back to the cabin.
Oh, no, not me. Maybe that blast was delayed. Maybe he'll go off any second. I don't want to get blown to Kingdom Come.
Maybe you'd rather stay here and freeze to death.
Couldn't we just pull stakes, get away from here, and not come back?
Leave that Mountie trying to track us down? No, sir.
But, Tom, maybe he isn't looking for us at all. We don't know that he wants to arrest us.
I'm going to find out. I don't like to leave loose ends dangling. I'll go on alone, Lefty. You come after me. When I get to the cabin, you come close enough to cover me if I need help. If you know what's good for you, don't let me down.
Tom set out, following his own back trail in a roundabout route to the cabin. King barked violently as he opened the door.
Hey,
King.
Mountie. That dog.
Take it easy. No cause for alarm. The dog won't hurt you.
What are you doing here?
Close the door and sit down, Lefty.
You calling me Lefty?
Isn't that right? Is that what your partner calls you?
How did you know?
When I came here, I found this note fastened to the door. It's addressed to Lefty and signed by Tom. You know where Tom went?
Well, according to this note, he went hunting. It says he'll be back. I'll have to wait here.
I guess he expected you back before 4 o'clock, didn't he?
Yeah, come to think of it, he did. But how'd you know that?
He had a death trap set for you?
What did you say? A death trap?
Look at this box. I'll open it.
What's that?
This clock here strikes the hour. There was a string tied from the hammer of the clock to the trigger of this gun. I removed the string. Otherwise, the gun would have been fired into plastic powder at the bottom of the box. It's set to go off at 4 o'clock. Tom left that note to be sure you'd stay here until then.
Where'd you find the box?
My dog King pointed it out for me. Buried beneath the table.
Ah, I see.
There was silence in the room, broken only by the ticking of the clock. Tom knew he had been mistaken for his partner. He looked at the clock, and then at the floor, and back at the clock again, while he considered his next move. He decided to act out the role Lefty would be expected to play.
So my partner was going to double-cross me, eh? Going to kill me. Why, that ordinary... Wait till I get my hands on him.
The law will take care of him for you, Lefty, if you'll cooperate.
Cooperate? What do you mean by that?
Lefty, I know what you and Tom have been up to. Several men in Dawson came close to starving because you two took all the food from the way cabin.
Who can prove it?
I know what you're going to say. Might be hard to make a charge against you stick in court as a matter of proof. There's no actual proof you stole the food. But you and I both know that's the case. We can prove you took just about all the gold Sam Corkins had in exchange for food enough to get to Dawson.
When food is scarce, the price goes up. It was mighty scarce for those men.
While I was waiting for you to return, I wrote out a full confession. Here it is.
You expect me to sign a confession that'll put me in jail?
I'm giving you a chance to stay out of jail. Of course, your fate will lie in the hands of a jury. But I think if you sign that confession and give back the gold and property you took, and restock the cabins you looted, the jury will take that into consideration.
What about my partner?
When your story's told, he will go to jail for attempted murder.
Well, I don't know. Let me think it over. I get him up, buddy.
King stood tense and ready, waiting for the nod from his master that would be the signal to attack the man who held a gun. But Sergeant Preston didn't nod. He wanted to know what lay behind the gunman's sudden change.
Steady, King. Hold it, boy. Not yet.
Get him up, you hear me?
I didn't expect you to pull a gun on me, Lefty.
No, I reckon you didn't. That was another mistake you made. You made a lot of mistakes today, Marty. The first one wasn't taking me for my partner, Lefty.
You're not Lefty?
Nah, my name's Tom Farnham, and that note I left on the door wasn't meant for Lefty. It was meant for you. And so was the blast. We saw you coming. I figured the note would keep you here till the blast went off.
So you're Tom Farnham, eh? Well, what I said about you still goes. You're headed for jail, and the charge is attempted murder. No, I won't need your confession. Moreover, you needn't look for mercy from any jury. The law's tough with men who plot the murder of a Northwest Mounted policeman.
Hey, you talk, you'd think you were the one holding the gun.
You won't shoot. As it stands now, you'll go to jail for attempted murder. Shoot me and you'll hang. The Yukon Territory is large, but it's not large enough to hide in. You'll be found.
Come on in, Lefty.
Hold it, King. Quiet, boy.
I got a gun on it, Tom.
I wondered where you were.
Now you know, Monty.
We'll tie him up, Lefty, then set this bomb all over again. This time we won't have to bother burying it. You see, Marty, if there's enough left of you to be found, it'll be hard for any jury to prove you were murdered. You thought I'd shoot you and leave a bullet hole, huh? Well, that was just one more mistake on your part. Get that rope over there, Lefty.
Sure. As you said, I seem to have made a lot of mistakes today. But you know, Tom, there's one I did not make.
Yeah?
My dog King nearly went for you when you pulled a gun. If I hadn't held him back, your partner outside might have come in shooting. But now your partner's here in the room. And King and I, between us, can take both of you.
Oh, you can't, eh? Well, I'd like to...
King had been tense like a tightly drawn bow. He sensed what was coming and was in the air before his master could complete the command to attack. Sergeant Preston, too, went into action. His gun came up like lightning. He fired a split second before Tom. And as he fired, he threw himself to one side. Tom's shot went wild. but the Mounties' bullet found the mark.
Take him off! Take him off! Help me! Kill me! Get him!
King's jaws closed on Lefty's gun arm like a bear trap. Lefty, knocked off balance, went down with the mighty dog on top. Tom staggered for the impact of the bullet. His right arm hung useless, but he regained his balance and with his left hand snatched the knife from his belt.
I'll get you, Monty!
Sergeant Preston closed in, dodged the knife, and shot out his fist in a stunning blow.
That should do it.
Get this dog!
All right, King. I'll take his gun. Stand back, boy.
Dog!
Get up, Lefty. The fight's over. You too, Farnham, on your feet. King, stand guard, boy, while I bandage this wound. And we'll take these two into Dawson with the gold they've stolen. I guess Sam Calkins and the others who were robbed will be glad to help return the food to the way cabins in exchange for their gold.
That dog! If it hadn't been for that butt body, you'd have been sitting here waiting for the explosion and send you to Kingdom Come.
You're right, Farnham. You're quite right. I can thank King for saving my life. Yes, King, I can thank you for saving my life twice. This case is closed, boy.
In just a moment, Sergeant Preston will give you a preview of Monday's program.
Hurry, hurry! Time's a-wasting!
Yes, hurry to your grocer. Look for special new model farm packages of Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice.
Start building your complete miniature model farm now.
You get as many as 6 different, easily assembled, exciting models on a single package.
That's on the new packages of the cereals shot from guns.
There's no waiting, no extra cost.
Get in on the fun. Start building yourself a swell model farm without delay.
These new models come only with delicious Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice. They're waiting for you now on your grocer's shelves. So hurry. These radio dramas, a feature of the Challenge of the Yukon Incorporated, are created and produced by George W. Trendle and directed by Fred Flowerday. This story was written by Franz Stryker. The part of Sergeant Preston is played by Paul Sutton. They are brought to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at this same time by Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice, the breakfast cereal shot from guns. Listen Monday when Sergeant Preston and Yukon King meet the challenge of the Yukon in the adventure of Escape to the North.
When Rita O'Day disappeared from Mrs. Carson's boarding house, King and I started after her. We found she'd been captured by outlaws who were ready to commit murder. And following their trail to the north meant facing danger and the threat of sudden death every minute. It was one of the most exciting cases we ever encountered.
Be sure to hear this thrilling story Mondays. Till then, this is J. Michael wishing you goodbye, good luck, and good health from Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice. So long. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
You're listening to Chin Radio AM 1540, the voice of multicultural Toronto, bringing you the latest updates on COVID-19. Stay informed, stay safe, and stay tuned to Chin Radio AM 1540.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. Dragnet is brought to you by Chesterfield, made by Liggett and Myers, first major tobacco company to give you a complete line of quality cigarettes. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to auto detail. An organized gang of thieves has been stripping cars in your city. None of the stolen merchandise has turned up. There's no lead to the identity of the members of the gang. Your job? Stop them. Smokers by the thousands are now changing to Chesterfield. No wonder. More and more smokers are learning this fact for themselves. Chesterfield, low in nicotine, highest in quality. A published fact, proved by chemical analyses of the country's 6 leading cigarette brands. Chesterfield, the only cigarette ever with a record like this. regular or king size, Chesterfield is best for you.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, June 13th. It was overcast in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of auto theft detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Nelson. My name's Friday. I was on my way into the office, and it was 7:52 a.m. when I got to room 45. Auto theft.
Morning, Joe.
All right, Bob. You seen Frank?
Oh, he hasn't come in yet.
Oh, all right.
Hey, Joe?
Yeah.
When Art gets in, tell him I'm down R&I, huh?
Yeah, sure. Bob, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good. What happened to you?
Well, if it's all the same to you, I'd rather not talk about it.
That bad, huh? You seen Joe? Yeah, he's over his locker.
Nice. Morning, Joe. What happened to you? Joe, I'd rather not discuss it. Well, what happened? All those scratches on your face, huh? Please, Joe. Well, I was just asking. Looks pretty bad, huh? Joe? Yeah. I look pretty bad, huh? I thought you didn't want to talk about it, you said. If word about this gets out, Joe, I ain't ever going to live it down. All right. I've been had, Joe. Cop for 12 years, I've been had. Well, what's it all about? You won't spread this around, will you? Look, I just asked you what happened. Now, if you don't want to tell me, I'll go along with you. You don't have to say a word. Come on, let's get on the reports. What do you say? You better get in touch with Bowles when he comes in and try to check some of these out, huh? You're not even interested, huh? All right. You want to tell me about it? Well, if you really want to hear, go ahead. Well, last night I took Faye down to the store. She had a little shopping to do. Small stuff, you know. Pot holders, dish towels, things like that. Yeah. I got a parking place right in front of the store, so I waited in the car for it. Mm-hmm. I was sitting there listening to the radio when this fellow walked up to the car. He leaned in the window and asked me if I had a minute. I told him I did and asked him what he wanted. Did you know the guy? Never saw him before. Didn't know him from Adam. Right off, I could see the guy had trouble. What do you mean? Well, he looked real bad, like he'd been on a drunk for at least a week. His clothes were all rumpled up, looked like he slept in them for a week. You know what I mean? Yeah. What did this guy want to talk to you about? When I saw him, I figured he was going to put the bite on me, so I braced myself, you know. You braced yourself? Yeah, you know. I'm a real sucker for hard luck stories. Faye's always telling me I should learn to stay away from those guys. She was just saying the other night that... What did this guy want? Huh? Well, what do you want, this fellow that talked to you? Oh, well, he gave me this story about how he'd been on the bat and how he was broke and he needed some money to clean up before he went home. Mm-hmm. But he makes it real plain that he does not want a handout. Nothing for nothing. What do you suppose he meant by that? That's when he showed me the package. The package? Yeah. What package? Well, the one he was carrying. Didn't I tell you that? No, you didn't yet. Well, you see, before I couldn't see it. Then he showed it to me. It's all done up in tissue paper, ribbons and all. The paper was kind of dirty, like he'd been carrying it for a long time. Ribbon was a little tired, but it was there. Mm-hmm. So he asked me if I wanted to buy it. That was this package. Well, what was in it? He asked me if I wanted to buy that. Well, what was in it? He took off the paper and he opened the thing up. And Joe, inside is a brand new razor. Brand new. Worth $26 in town. What kind of a razor? Well, he said he'd let me have it for $20. No, what kind of a razor? Just a razor, the kind you shave with? Yeah, an electric razor. Oh, well, you didn't tell me it was electric. Didn't I say that? No, and you said he let you have it for $20 just because he needed the money. Yeah. Well, happened that I didn't have $20, you know me, so I told him I couldn't make a deal. Then he left, huh? No, Joe. Now, look, you wanted to hear it. Will you let me finish? Well, it takes you a little time. I have to keep drawing you out here. I'm sorry, Joe. I want you to get all the facts. We're officers together. We talked back and forth for a little bit. Guy finally said that I looked like I had an honest face. That's a new approach, isn't it? Joe. Well. So finally he says he'll let me have the razor for $15. So I bought it. That's how you cut your face up, huh, with that new electric razor? Well, in a way. You see, I had to buy some blades last night, and since I had the new electric, I didn't do it. Well, you don't need blades for an electric. No, it wasn't for the electric, Joe. It was for the old one that I had at home. But you had the electric now. Sure, and once I had that in my hand, I didn't want any blades. The only thing I had in the house was a blade that was a week old. So I got up this morning, plugged in my brand new electric. What do you figure happened? Well, I'm going to take a real blind guess. It didn't run. How'd you know? Well, the same thing happened to Murphy over in robbery last month. There was a big laugh around here. You were one of the guys who laughed the most, don't you remember?
Yeah. I remember now. Miserable.
Murphy know about this yet?
No. I ain't about to tell him either.
Mm-hmm.
Friday?
Yeah, Skipper.
See you guys?
But
close the door. Sit down.
Thank you.
What happened to you, Smith? It's a long story, Skipper. You can tell me later. Why don't you guys take a look at this?
What do you got there?
Just saw Chief Brown on the way in. He's getting pressure from the corner pockets. He wants this thing cleared up.
What is the deal?
Last few weeks, car stripping's taking a big jump. Not the usual line of stuff. Not just happening in certain neighborhoods. We got reports there from the Valley, Hollywood, Wilshire, all of the divisions. Same thing's happening all over town.
Uh-huh.
Talk to the boys in the sheriff's office. They're getting it. Same in Burbank, Beverly Hills, Santa Monica. Doesn't seem to be any place they aren't getting to.
How about the stolen stuff, Skipper? Any of it show up yet?
Not that we can find. All the usual outlets have been checked. None of the loot can be bought.
Any special kind of things being taken?
Let him see those reports, Chief.
Yeah, here. Thanks.
Take a look. You're not messing with kids in this thing. The way the victims tell us, this gang can break into a locked car and lift a radio in under 10 minutes. And pull all four wheels off the car in under 6 minutes. Insurance companies are screaming. They already got into the police commission. Chief Brown told me this morning he didn't care how we did it, but he wanted it stopped.
Well, where do we start?
Well, up to now, the investigation's been handled pretty much by the divisions. From here in, it's in your labs. Use as many men as you need. Just bring the thieves in. You're not working on anything now, are you?
No, we're just winding up that Gibson thing. Couple of reports to finish. We should be through by noon.
We'll turn the reports over to somebody else. I want you to start on this thing right away.
Okay. Right, Skipper.
Anything you need, let me know.
Right, we'll check you later.
Right. Smith?
Yes, sir?
How'd you get all those cuts in your face there, shaving?
Well, in a way, yeah.
Yeah, same thing used to happen to me. Why don't you get yourself an electric razor?
8:11 a.m. Frank and I asked one of the other men in the detail to take care of the reports on the cases we finished, and then we started through the statements we'd gotten from Captain Nelson. From them, we got a pretty good idea of how the car stripping ring was operating. There seemed to be a definite plan for the thefts. Most of the stolen articles were in the luxury class. Only radios were taken from Cadillacs and Lincolns. Heaters were stolen from Chrysler. Special hubcaps from foreign cars were listed among the stolen property. We had the stats office make a run on the MO that we could piece together, but their information led us nowhere. In none of the reports was there a possible description of the thief. The times the cars were stripped and the locations where the burglaries occurred made it apparent that it was a large-scale operation. For the next 2 days, we talked to the victims. We double-checked the time of the thefts and the movement of the victims immediately preceding the car stripping. We asked about people loitering in the vicinity of the parked cars. None of the drivers who'd been victimized could supply us with any more evidence than they'd given us in their statements. Friday, June 16th, we checked the list of recent parolees from state penitentiaries and work farms looking for ex-convicts who'd been involved in cases of car stripping. The list of names we came up with were checked out, but they led us nowhere. In the meantime, the pressure from the citizens groups in the city had gotten worse. At the end of the first week we've been working on the case, the value of stolen articles reached about $500 a day. Additional officers were assigned to patrol the streets. Radio cars doubled the number of field interrogations they normally made, and although several arrests were made, the possibles picked up apparently had no part in the activities of the organized ring. On Saturday, June 24th, we got a call from an ex-convict. He asked us to come out to his garage and talk to him.
Come on back here, fellas. We can talk while I finish up.
All right.
Hey, quite a place we got here, Al. Yeah, I've been pretty lucky. Got just about all I can handle now, and the way business is going, I'm going to have to take on some more help.
How many men you got working for you now, Al?
2 full-time. Saturdays, I got a couple of kids who come in and help out with the wash jobs. Now, we can talk right here. Pull up a couple of those chairs.
All right.
There's a rag there on that bench if you want to wipe them off. They get a little dirty standing around.
That's okay, Al. What do you want to see us about?
Well, first off, I want to tell you guys that I appreciate the way you treated me when I fell. I'll never forget it. Real nice.
Don't worry about it, Al.
I read in the papers where you're getting a lot of heat on the stripping going around.
Yeah, that's right.
I just wondered how you're doing on it.
That's going pretty slow. Why, do you know anything?
I got a couple of rumbles. You know, it's hard not to hear them. I heard that none of the stuff's been shoved, that right?
We haven't seen any of it.
Well, the way I get it, you aren't about to. Hey, hand me that socket wrench, will you?
This one?
Yeah,
There you go.
Thanks. A fella came in here a couple of days ago. I knew him from before. He said he wanted to do business. He asked me if I was interested in some good buys to use radios. I told him I might be if they were good. He said these were the best, all GMs. Then he gave me the price. When I heard that, I knew something was up. What was he asking? I told him he could deliver 6 Cadillac radios for $28.50 apiece. I asked him where he got them. What did he say to that? He told me it wasn't any of my business. Said where he got them didn't make the radios play any different.
What makes you figure he might be in on the operation we're after?
Well, I told him if he could make deliveries at that price, I'd want a lot more than a half a dozen.
Yeah.
He said he couldn't supply them. Said that he only could spring 6. I asked him if he was working alone. He told me no. I figured I ought to give you guys a call. Might be something for you.
You said you know him, huh?
Yeah, from before. Say, you guys like cold beer?
No, Al.
No, thanks. You mind if I have one? It's kind of hot. No, go ahead. Thanks. Day gets a little hot. You really notice it. Are you sure you guys don't want a beer?
No. Okay.
Never could drink out of a can. Seems to taste better in a glass. Oh, that's good.
Who was the guy, Al?
Oh, it's Manny Phillips.
You know he didn't touch with him?
Haven't got the slightest idea.
Did he ever fall him?
Yeah, I did time at Q for GTA.
Is he on parole?
I don't know. I think he made it free, like I told you. I didn't know him real well. Used to hang around, never had much to do with him. Yeah, this is the first time I've seen him since I got out. I've been steering clear of the old bunch. Makes it easier if you don't pal around with them. Business I got's going good. Got no trouble with anybody, and I want it to go on like this. Never could figure it. Guy falls out, and right away he's back with the same old bunch. How you going to stay clean like that? Well, you aren't. Somewhere along the line, you got to make a mistake. You're right back where you started.
How long did it take you to learn it?
I spent 4.5 years at the joint.
Some of them fall harder than that, Al.
Yeah?
We still don't learn. 11:20 a.m. We called the office, and Sergeants Bob Beck and Officer Art Molnar came out to the garage to stake out in case the suspect came back. Frank and I took Al Woodson down to the city hall and checked the name Manny Phillips through R&I. From the packages that were pulled, we were able to get an identification of the man who'd offered the radios for sale. We checked the information contained in the package. Phillips, whose real name was Manuel Richard Phillips, had an arrest record dating back 12 years. He'd spent 1 year at Fred C. Nellis School for Boys for car stripping when he was 14. From the time of his release, he'd been arrested on the average of once every 2 weeks. His age at the time of his latest release from San Quentin was given as 26. Out of that time, he'd spent a total of 8 years in state penal institutions. From his package, we obtained his last reported address. We checked it out and found that he'd moved 3 months before. We checked his forwarding address. He'd moved. Finally, after talking to the managers of 9 more rooming houses and apartments, we came up with his present residence. The landlady told us that Phillips apparently didn't work for a living, but that he always had the money for his rent. She described him as quiet and said that he usually spent a good part of the daylight hours in his room. She was unable to tell us anything about his friends or any business associates that he might have. The stakeout was set up on the place immediately. Because of the apparent size of the operation, it was decided not to attempt to take the suspect into custody at this time. Instead, Captain Nelson agreed that we should keep Phillips under surveillance and try to learn more about the car stripping game. For the next week, we followed Phillips. 24 hours a day, there were at least 2 officers tracing his movements. On 3 nights, he was watched while he stripped cars of expensive accessories. The area was put under a code 5, so there would be no possibility of the suspect learning he was under observation. 11 days after the surveillance began, Phillips was observed to visit a large marine supply yard down in San Pedro. The next night, July 6th, he drove up to the place at 11:37 p.m. He parked his car in front of the gate and dropped the large bundle over the fence. Immediately afterwards, he returned to his room. The following morning at 8:06 a.m., we met with Sergeant Beck in Captain Nelson's office.
What did they find out about the ownership of the supply yard?
The license was issued to a Harry Swenson.
And how about him?
We checked the name through the I Bureau. Nothing on him there.
Beck, you and Molnar come up with anything? Not that you haven't got. We staked out on the yard every night since we found it. Hasn't been a night that passed that some car hasn't made a delivery of some kind. Got the license numbers of all the cars. They've all been checked out. We know who they are and where to find them.
We've had a tail on Swenson every minute. Must have eyes in the back of his head. Soon as one of our men falls in step, he knows that the way he's active, there isn't a thing he can prove.
What's the DA's office saying about it?
We had lunch with Alexander yesterday, Skipper. Laid out the evidence we had.
Yeah?
Told us we tried to take Swenson to court with what we've got, they'd laugh us out of town.
Well, where does that put you?
Well, really not much further than we were. We know who's behind the ring. We know where they're operating from. The big thing now is to find the plant. Unless we can produce the stolen merchandise in Swenson's possession, we haven't got a case that'll stand up.
No leaks about the plant?
No, not that we can find. Everybody that's been near Swenson's place has been tailed. Twice a week there's a truck that leaves the yard. There's no way of telling what's in it, and the times we followed it, we've lost it.
And how about a bug? Can you get one into Swenson's office?
Well, I don't know how. There's no way of getting them out of there long enough to install one. The night watchman's always on the premises. We're not even sure he's not in on it, too.
So where do you stand on it?
Well, your guess is as good as ours. Alexander says that without finding the plant, we can't take him to court. Now, we've used every trick in the book to get him to lead us to it, and not one of them's worked.
They haven't left the thing open. They're playing it real smart.
How many men involved in the operation?
Well, we're not sure, but as near as we can figure, 12. That's not counting Swenson or that night watchman.
You've been in the business long enough to know it, then?
What's that?
When there's that many men working, there's got to be a leak someplace.
Yeah.
Find it.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action. At cigarette dealers, in vending machines, at supermarkets and stores coast to coast.
Chesterfield, please.
Smokers by the thousands. Yes, smokers by the thousands are now changing to Chesterfield, the only cigarette ever to give you one, proof of low nicotine, highest quality, a matter of record. Two, the only cigarette ever to give you this proven record with smokers. Again and again, over a full year and one half, a group of Chesterfield smokers have been given thorough medical examinations. The doctor's reports are again a matter of record. No adverse effect to the nose, throat, and sinuses from smoking Chesterfield. A responsible independent research laboratory supervises this continuing program. Chesterfield. Best for me, best for you.
For the next week, a close surveillance was kept on Swenson's Marine Supply Yard, but there were no breaks. Kickbacks from George Bratton up at CII in Sacramento and from Washington, D.C. didn't disclose any previous criminal record on the suspect. During that week, on Tuesday, July 11th, and on Thursday, July 13th, a large stake truck left the yard. The back of the truck was covered with a piece of canvas so that we were unable to see what was in it, but we were reasonably sure that it contained stolen merchandise. In scouting the neighborhood for a possible place to establish a more workable stakeout, we came across an empty office on the second floor of the building directly across the street from Swenson's place of business. Officers equipped with binoculars maintained a constant watch on the activities in the yard. After another week, the events that had been seen were reported to Assistant District Attorney Adolph Alexander, and he stated that if we could get pictures of the operation, we might be able to make a case that would stand up in court. Monday, July 17th, we met with Sergeant Putoff in the crime lab.
How far are you going to have to be from the subject, Joe?
Well, second floor across the street.
Are you going to be able to take all the pictures during the day?
Don't think so, Putoff. Most of the activity runs after 9 at night.
Mm-hmm. Well, best bet probably infrared, then. We can shoot it with a 4x5.
How about light?
Oh, is there any sort of telephone pole, traffic signal in front of the place?
Yeah, I think so. The way I remember it, there's a phone pole about 10 feet to the left of the gate as you face the yard.
Well, we can tie the lights to that, then.
Well, any chance they could be spotted?
Outside, you can put them up pretty high. Irregular lamp reflectors with heavy infrared filters. If you know they're there and look up, you're going to be able to spot them.
Any chance of taking movies?
Yeah, we can swing that. Life Magazine's been experimenting with a new fast film. Results I've seen with it are pretty amazing. All you need is one street lamp. We can use that.
Well, if you have to string the infrared lights, wouldn't it be better to shoot the movies on that kind of film?
Well, you get something. Film's pretty slow, though. You better to use the stuff Lance come up with.
All right, how long will it take you to set it up?
Well, how careful do we have to be?
Well, these guys are pretty cagey. If they get any idea at all, we're dead.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can have a couple of men go out in the morning and outfit them as linemen. They should be able to have the rig ready for you by tomorrow night.
We can start shooting pictures then, huh?
Should be able to, yeah.
All right. Is Jay Allen around, you know?
Well, I think he's over the court this morning, Joe.
Well, then maybe you can help us out there, too.
What's that?
We're trying to figure some way to tail a truck. We've been trying to find the plant these guys are using for a couple of weeks now, and we just can't get near them. We wondered if Jay might have any ideas on that.
Probably use fluorescent paint. That ought to do it.
What's the gimmick there?
They tie a can of transparent fluorescent lacquer to the back of the truck. Punch a hole in the can, and all you got to do is follow the drops.
You punch a hole in the can, won't all the stuff run out?
Well, there's a couple of brands on the market. They've got enough viscosity so the paint will stay in the can. Regulate the frequency of the drops by the size of the hole.
Can you see it?
Not without ultraviolet lamp. Tie one of those to the hood of your car and you got it made.
You got the equipment here to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, would you have Jay give us a call when he comes in?
Right. He'll know more about it than I do. Be able to give you all the dopes.
Okay.
I'll get right on the other for you.
Thanks a lot.
Say, how long you been after this bunch?
Well, let's see. We got the assignment on June 13th. That'd make it over a month now.
A lot of time.
Well, maybe now we'll have something to show for it. The following morning, Tuesday, July 18th, 2 men from the crime lab installed 3 1,000-watt lamps in front of the Marine Supply Yard. The reflectors were equipped with heavy infrared filters.
Test exposures from our position across the street indicated that whatever pictures we got would be recognizable enough as to be admitted in a court of law. The new fast film was obtained, and 16-millimeter cameras were installed in the window of the office across the street from Swenson's. We talked with Sergeant J. Allen in the crime lab, and he went to work on the use of the fluorescent paint. After experimenting, he was able to come up with a correct size hole in the bottom of the can so that a single drop of the lacquer would fall from the can every 10 seconds. A portable ultraviolet lamp was obtained and was ready for immediate installation on our car. For the next 3 nights, we sat in our vantage point and we photographed all activity on the suspect's premises. The pictures were shown to Adolph Alexander in the district attorney's office, and he told us that they would play a large part in the prosecution of the case. However, he said that if we could come up with the hiding place of the stolen loot, the conviction would be assured. Tuesday morning, July 25th, 3:15 a.m. Frank and I took the can of fluorescent paint and climbed the fence into the supply yard. Back here. Right. No. Lousy thing, I didn't see. All right, you better hold it a minute. Who's there? The watchman. Yeah. Better get back in the shadows. Come on, easy.
Come on out, I know you're there. Come on now. Who is it?
That was close. Yeah. All right, let's go. The truck should be back in the shed. Right. Right, here we are. There's a can. You want to hang it? I'll keep an eye out. Right. Can't get anything on here. Who thought up this handle? This doesn't work at all. Wait a minute. Bend it now. Yeah, give me your handkerchief. Wait a minute. There's a sharp edge on this wire. Hey, here it is. All right, wait a minute. We still clear there? Yeah. How about that watchman? Right back. Right there we are. How about the stopper in the can? I got it in place. The first bump should knock it out. I hope so. It's gotta work. All right, now let's try to get out of here. See if you can kick something else while you're on the way. Tuesday night at 11:35 p.m., the state truck pulled out of Swenson's Marine Supply Yard. Sergeant Bob Beck, Frank, and I were parked in an alley just down the street. We let the truck get a good 20-minute start on us, and then the ultraviolet lamp was attached to the hood of our car. Frank started the motor, and we pulled out into the street.
Spot anything yet?
No.
Maybe the lacquer dried up around the cork, held it in place.
That's a happy thought.
Here's the corner. Which way?
Wait a minute. Let's take a chance straight ahead, huh?
All right.
There's nothing up this way. You better double back.
Okay.
Let's try to the left this time.
How about it? See anything yet?
Go on up a little more, will you? Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. Look at that stuff. It's really lit up.
For the next 35 minutes, we followed the trail left by the fluorescent paint. From time to time, we'd lose the trail, but we'd always pick it up again. The truck followed the main highway from San Pedro to Santa Monica, and then turned left up Santa Monica Canyon. The trail wound around toward Sunset Boulevard and turned to the left. About 1 mile from the beach, the drops indicated that the truck had left the main street and turned onto a private dirt road. Half a mile along the road, the trail stopped in front of a large wooden building in the middle of a field. We turned off the car lights and went up to the place. The blinds on the windows were drawn, but there were lights on in the front room. Sergeant Beck covered the rear of the building, and Frank and I went up to the front door. All right. Yeah.
What are you doing in here?
Police officers, you're under arrest.
For what?
Is anybody else here in the building?
What are you arresting me for?
You want to check with Beck, Frank?
Right. What are you doing coming in here like this? You got no right coming around kicking doors
All right,
in.
save it, Swenson.
How do you know my
We've
name?
been watching you for a month now. Is there anybody else in this house?
No.
You own this place?
I'm not answering anything till I see a
All
lawyer.
right, you call it any way you want. We can find out.
Got no right in here. I'm going to see my lawyer.
Do that, Swenson.
What's the charge?
Burglary.
You think you can make it stick?
We're going to try, mister.
Where's your evidence? You got to have evidence.
We got it.
There's nobody else here, Joe. Back room's full of stuff. Radios, heaters, tires, all here.
So what? You can't put me away for that.
All right, let's go, Swenson.
No, just a minute. Will you listen to me a minute?
All right.
Man, you got this all wrong. You're making a big mistake here. I intend to pay for every bit of that stuff back there. I'm going to pay for it.
Yeah, that's right. You will.
The story you have just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On December 12th, trial was held in Department 97, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, we'd like to express our appreciation to all of you who've made our Dragnet theme song so popular. Whenever or wherever you hear it, we hope it'll remind you to try our Chesterfield. To join the thousands who are changing to Chesterfield and getting the one cigarette that's low in nicotine, highest in quality. Chesterfield. Best for me, best for you.
All other members of the gang were taken into custody and were brought to trial. Harry Ralph Swenson, along with his accomplices, was tried and convicted of 14 counts of burglary in the second degree and received sentence as prescribed by law. Burglary in the second degree is punishable by imprisonment in the state penitentiary for a period of not less than 1 nor more than 15 years.
If you had only one book, the Bible, do you know that you would have within its covers the finest examples of literature, both in prose and poetry? You'd have stories which have never been equaled: adventure, love, history, and prophecy. So read your Bible every day during National Bible Week.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Frazier. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Vic Perrin, Jack Crucian. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Watch an entirely new Dragnet case history each week on your local NBC television station. Please check your newspapers for the day and time. Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. Have you tried new cork tip Fatima? It's the smooth smoke with Fatima tips of perfect cork. Case size for longer filtering. And aroma. Fatima is made and guaranteed by Liggett & Myers Tobacco Company. Try Fatima today. Hear Frank Sinatra as Rocky Fortune tonight on the NBC Radio Network.
You're listening to Chin Radio AM 1540, the voice of multicultural Toronto, bringing you the latest updates on COVID-19. Stay informed, stay safe, and stay tuned to Chin Radio AM 1540.
Now, as gunshots echo across the windswept, snow-covered reaches of the wild Northwest, Quaker Puff Wheat and Quaker Puff Rice, the breakfast cereal shot from guns, present the challenge of the Yukon. It's Yukon King, swiftest and strongest lead dog of the Northwest, blazing the trail for Sergeant Preston of the Northwest Mounted Police in his relentless pursuit of lawbreakers. On King, on Husky. Gold discovered in the Yukon, a stampede to the Klondike in the wild race for riches. Back to the days of the gold rush, with Quaker Puff Wheat and Quaker Puff Rice, bringing you the adventures of Sergeant Preston and his wonder dog, Yukon King, as they meet the challenge of the Yukon. Quick as a whip, plenty of snap. Yes, that's the kind of energy Sergeant Preston has. and that's the kind that calls for a good breakfast. So take a tip. Be sure every morning your breakfast includes a heaping bowl full of delicious, nourishing Quaker Puffed wheat or Quaker Puffed rice topped with milk or cream and fruit. These tempting, crisp, king-size kernels of wheat and rice shot from guns give you added food values of restored natural-grade amounts of vitamin B1, niacin, and iron. So, for plenty of snaps, eat good breakfast, including that big treat, tasty, nutritious Quaker Puffed rice or Quaker Puffed wheat. King skidded around the corner and raced down Front Street until he reached the headquarters of the Northwest Mounted. There he threw himself against the door, barking furiously. A second later, Sergeant Preston opened the door.
King, what's the matter? Want me to follow you? All right, boy, I'll get this.
The sergeant slipped into his pocket and started after King. From the brilliantly lighted Front Street with its row of cafes, the dog led the way back to 4th Street. Here, there was only an occasional light, but the sergeant could see a crowd gathered in front of one of the cabins.
Hey, here comes Sergeant Preston. He'll put a stop to it.
Maybe he will.
What's going on in that cabin?
It's a fight, Sergeant. They sound like they're murdering each other.
Who?
A young fellow named Tex Wainwright and somebody else. Tex lives here. I never saw the other guy before.
All right, let me through. Let me through, please.
Yeah.
Two men inside the cabin were standing toe-to-toe, slugging it out. But they were arm-weary and winded. When the sergeant pulled them apart, they had no strength to resist.
All right, that's enough. Which one of you is Wainwright?
It's me.
What's your name?
Henry. Mike Henry.
What's this all about?
It's personal.
How'd it start?
There was a knock at the door. I opened it. He walked in and hit me.
Just like that?
Just like that.
Why, Hanley?
Better ask him.
Well, Tex?
I've got nothing to say, Sergeant. It's personal. There's no sense in talking about it.
You were defending yourself?
That's right.
You started it, Hanley?
That's right.
And I'm going to lock you up.
Go ahead. Now, wait, don't, Sergeant. Can we forget about it?
You know we can't.
I don't want to make any complaint. It's just between us. It's strictly our business.
It's the force's business when you start disturbing the peace. Where do you live, Hanley?
At the palace.
I'll take you back there. You're new in town, Hanley. Must be a long-standing grudge of some sort.
Yeah.
Well, your past doesn't interest me, but there'll be no feuding in the Yukon Territory. That understood?
Yeah.
We understand.
Then come along.
As soon as the sergeant and Mike Hanley had left the cabin, Tex washed and put on a clean shirt. 15 minutes later, he walked into the Monte Carlo. Meg Forrest saw him as soon as he stepped inside the door and hurried to his side.
Tex, they say you were in a fight
Yeah.
with Mike Henry. He's followed you here.
He's here anyway. Sergeant Preston broke it up.
What did you tell the sergeant?
Nothing.
Tex, you should have. If the sergeant knew that Mike has sworn to kill you,
He's sworn to do it with his fist, Meg. He can't. Well, that's all there is to it. There's nothing to worry about.
Tex,
Just the same, I'm going to get on with my business.
you're going up to North Creek?
Yeah. I'll find the old Indian Paul wrote me about just before he died. I'll get the gold Paul left with him, and then I'll come back here. You and I are heading for the States.
What if Mike follows you up to North Creek?
I'll leave tomorrow night, honey. Nobody will know I've gone.
That's easy to say. I wish you told the sergeant and had him locked up.
I couldn't.
Why not?
Because if I was in Mike's place, maybe I'd feel the same way. It's one thing for a joy to see you're innocent, and another...
You were innocent, Tex. You were only protecting yourself, and it wasn't your blow that killed Steve Henley.
If I hadn't hit him, he'd never have cracked his head against that rock.
He started it all.
All right, all right. All I said was that I understand the way Mike feels. Let's forget about it. You ready to leave?
I have to sing one more song.
I'll be waiting here, Meg. I'll walk you home.
There was a man standing at the bar close to where Meg and Tex had been talking. He kept his head down and his shoulders hunched over his drink as he listened. His sharp black eyes were narrowed to slits, his thin lips twisted in a smile. He waited for a few minutes after Meg had left Tex. Then he made his way through the crowd to one of the rooms in back of the cafe. Inside, there were 5 men seated around the table playing poker.
All right, break it up for a minute.
You mean break it up? I just started to win a few parts.
I've got news, Ace.
Yeah? What about, Blackie?
Tex Wainwright and that gold cache his father left him.
Come on, let's get back to the game. Oh, I want to hear. Go on, Blackie.
Now, let's see. He stayed around here for a month courting Meg. But he starts for North Creek tomorrow night. Do we follow him or don't we?
I'm for it. What makes you think we can get away with it?
Well, there's 6 of us.
Well, he knows us. We'd have to kill him.
Well,
I don't like that. Neither do I. We left town right after him, we'd be suspected first thing.
but we wouldn't, Ace. That's why my news is good news. There's a man in town called Mike Hanley from Texas. And he's sworn to kill Tex.
How do you know that?
I've just been listening to Meg and Tex talking over. It seems Hanley and Tex had a big fight tonight. Sergeant Preston stopped it.
But why does this Hanley want to kill him?
Well, from what I could gather, Tex had a fight with another Hanley back in Texas. Steve, his name was. And Steve died as a result of it. Maybe he was Mike's brother, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Wasn't Tex accused of murder?
Well, the jury turned him loose. Self-defense.
So what about it?
But think, Ace. Tex leaves town. We make sure Mike knows about it. He follows Tex. And we follow Mike. If Mike doesn't finish Tex off, we do. But Mike gets blamed for it, you see? Meg will see to that. She'll tell the Northwest Mounted about the feud. Right?
Yeah. That sounds pretty good, Blackie. Yeah.
How about the rest of you? Like it?
As we get to work.
Okay. We'll need 3 sleds and supplies, Ace.
I'll take care of them.
I'll see that Hanley's tipped off about Tex leaving town. Well, get on with your game, gents. You'll be playing for bigger stakes tomorrow night.
Right.
Blackie informed Mike Hanley of Tex's plans the next morning. That night, Mike Hanley stood at the window of his room in the Palace Hotel. It was after 12 o'clock when he saw Tex Wainwright leave the Monte Carlo. Half an hour later, he was driving up the Klondike, following the fresh tracks of Tex's sled. And half an hour after that, 3 other sleds left Dawson. Blackie, Ace, and company were on the trail of gold.
So far, so good, Ace.
You can make this team move faster.
No need for it. Give Tex a chance to find his gold. Give Mike a chance to get rid of him for it. Why should we hurry?
Better to be too early than too late. Give him the whip.
Okay.
March! But what Blackie and Ace could not know was that Meg's concern made her inquire for Mike Hanley at the Palace Hotel the following morning. When she learned that he had left town by dog sled shortly after Tex the previous night, she went straight to the Northwest Mounted headquarters and told Sergeant Preston the whole story of the feud between the 2 men.
Mike is bigger than Tex, much stronger. And up there at North Creek with no one to stop him, I know he'll go through with it. He'll kill him.
When did Tex leave?
A little after midnight.
You have a good team?
Yes. And he intended to make the trip as fast as he could. I don't think Mike can catch him before he gets to the creek. But that will be tonight sometime or late this
You spoke of
afternoon.
an Indian.
Tom Kusaya. He lives near the head of the creek. Tex has a letter with his mark on it. It's to identify him.
I understand all that.
You'll go after them.
Of course.
Is there any chance...
Not of overtaking them before they get to the creek. But King can make the trip faster than any other lead dog in the Yukon. We may arrive in time to prevent trouble.
In time to save Tex's life, Sergeant. King, please.
We'll do our best. Come on, boy, we're hitting the trail. In less than 15 minutes, the sergeant's team was harnessed. And because the trails were hard-packed at that time of year, King, who usually worked as a loose lead, was also harnessed. This was enough to make the great dog realize the need for speed. He looked back at his master as he took his place behind the sled. The welcome words came. On King! On Husky! And King leaped forward, determined to make the sergeant proud of him, calling on the rest of the team to match his efforts. Long way, boy. We've got to make time. On, King! We'll continue our adventure in just a moment. And now, fellas and girls, time marches back. It's the scene of a famous race, the race between the hare and the tortoise. The crowds are in a frenzy of excitement, and so are the hare and the tortoise. They're down at the starting line talking excitedly.
Hey, Tony, old boy, did you hear about the wonderful prize for the winner?
Yes, indeed.
A whole year's supply of Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice, the famous breakfast cereal shot from guns.
Oh boy, how I'd go for giant-sized, crisp, delicious Quaker puffed wheat and rice every single morning.
And now the hare and the tortoise are on their mark. They're ready, set, and off they go. Just watch that hare tear.
Gee, I can see myself now, every morning, pouring out a heap of bowl full of Quaker puffed wheat and rice, and covering it with lots of rich milk or cream and some sweet chilled fruit. Ah, I can just taste those delicious mouth-watering spoonfuls.
We can't see the hare anymore. The tortoise has barely started, but he's plodding along steadily.
Oh, my. I'd give anything to win that prize and have Quaker puffed wheat or Quaker puffed rice every morning. They taste so good. And I hear they're mighty good for you, too. Give you extra food values of restored natural green amounts of vitamin B1, niacin, and iron. Believe me, that's...
We're at the finish line now. The race is almost over, and the tortoise wins!
And the prize, fellas and girls, is one you can have, too. Just race to the breakfast table every morning for Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice. You'll love that scrumptious nut-like flavor and tender crispness that just melts in your mouth. Yes, for a treat that can't be beat, make your cereals Quaker puffed rice and Quaker puffed wheat. The famous cereals shot from guns. Now to continue. Tex Wainwright reached Tom Keziah's cabin on North Creek at 8 o'clock that evening. He showed the old Indian the last letter he'd received from his father, with Tom's mark below the elder Wainwright's signature.
Tom not need this letter to know you right, feller. Your face, it like Tom's friend.
Yeah, everybody says I look like my father.
Those not your dogs. Tom put them in run side of cabin. Somebody come.
Have many visitors?
No. You first man Tom see in month.
I wonder.
Tom find out who come.
Evening. I'm looking for Tex Wainwright. I see I've come to the right place.
This friend of yours, Tex?
I couldn't very well call him a friend.
Mind if I come in, Injun? What you say, Tex?
Yeah, let him in. He's come a long way.
It's a good place to settle our business. Won't be any mounted police around to interfere.
I suppose we might as well settle it. Sooner or later, I've got to make you realize that you can't do what you've sworn to do. But there's no hurry. You must be hungry. I am. Let's have something to eat before we start.
As long as it's Indians' food, that suits me.
You can feed another traveler, can't you, Tom?
Yeah, there's plenty of food. You sit down. Come, put 'em on table.
It was a strange meal. Tex talked with Tom about his father, but Mike said nothing. Finally, Tex rose from the table.
Well, I guess we better take off our gun belts and our coats and leave them in here.
In here?
Yeah. Go outside. No sense in wrecking Tom's cabin.
That suits me. What you do, Tex?
We've got a little matter to settle with our fists, Tom. You stay in here. After it's over...
After it's over, you can bury him. What, that?
That's a joke, Tom. After it's over, we'll patch him up and send him on his way. Ready, Mike?
Yeah.
Without another word, the two men left the cabin. It was nearly as bright as day outside. There was a moon, and the northern lights streaked across the sky. The tall pines at the edge of the forest and back of the cabin cast great black shadows across the snow. The two men squared off. Mike struck out with the right. Tex parried the blow. The huskies began to bark. For a few minutes, both Mike and Tex were content to feel each other out. And then Tex stung Mike with the left, and they threw caution to the wind. For the next 5 minutes, they fought savagely.
They didn't see the dog team stop down the trail. They didn't see the men advancing toward them along the banks of the creek. It was Tom, watching from the doorway of the cabin, who shouted out a warning.
Hey, those fellas have guns.
A shot rang out and Tex pitched against Mike. Surprised, Mike caught him in his arms.
Hey, bring him inside.
What happened?
Those killers down trail. Trippz.
Acting by instinct, Mike started for the cabin, supporting Tex. Tom opened fire on the man who took cover below the bank of the creek.
Hurry, inside.
Yeah.
Put him on cot. And go out there.
Steady does it, Tex. Yeah, lie down here. Yeah.
Tex, you see fella shoot you?
Yeah, I recognize one of them. An hombre called Blackie.